Hello friends, today I will share a casual kurti design, and for that I am using this cotton fabric with this beautiful border on one side, and I am using 2.5 meter of fabric. So let's get started. This is the measurement I am using. You can adjust it according to your requirement. And these are the calculations we will need. So firstly I'll cut the front of the kurti, and I'm making front bodies out of this border. So I will measure the width of the border, and it's 8.5 inch, and my body's width is 10.75 inch including seam allowances. So I will mark a point at 11 inch and I will cut the whole border. So I have separated the border from the fabric, and now I will trace the basic bodice pattern on the border. I have taken 2 layers as I have to stitch from the center, and for that I have left 0.75 inch seam allowance over here and 1.5 inch seam allowance on the sides. And now I will trace the pattern. So I have traced the pattern. I will not trace the neckline as I am making different neckline. So I have traced the pattern and the seam allowances, and now I'll cut it. So this is how it looks. Now I'll cut the front bottom, and for that I have firstly marked the length of the front bottom. Now this is the waist point, and from this point go 7 inch downwards and mark a point. This is the hip point, and now I will extend these points. Now I'll mark the waist and hip measurements. So waist is 7.5 inch and the hip is 10 inch. So I have marked the point at 10 inch, and now I will join these points. I am making princess line bottom, so I'll mark the midpoint on the waistline and the hip line, and I'll join these points too. Now for the bottom point, keep the measuring tape on the midpoints and take it till bottom and mark the point. And from the midpoint I have taken 5 inch outwards and marked the point. And now I'll join these points. So marking is complete, and I have also marked the seam allowance of 1 inch. And I have cut the front of the kurti, and this is how it looks. Now for back I am using this fabric. I am not using border on the back. So I have taken the full length of the kurti, that is 42 inches. And now from top I'll mark a point at 6.75 inch, and from this point go 7 inch downwards and mark a point. This is the waist point. Again from waist point go 7 inch downwards and mark the point. Now I'll extend these points, and now I'll mark the bust, waist and hip measurements. So bust is 8.5 inch and the waist is 7.5 inch and the hip is 10 inch. So I have marked the points, and I'll join these points. Now for shoulder I'll mark a point at 6.75 inch, half of shoulder measurement, and I'll mark the same point on the bust line too, like this. And now I will join these points. For neckline, from the center point go 2.5 inch inwards and mark a point. If you want a broad neck, you can mark a point at 3 inch or 3.5 inch. Now I'm making princess line from shoulder, so I'll mark a midpoint of these 2 points, and similarly I'll mark the midpoint of bust line on the waistline and on the hip line. So I have marked the midpoints, and now I will join these midpoints like this. I have joined them till hip line. Now for bottom point, again keep the measuring tape on the mid point of waist and hip point and take it to the bottom and mark the point. So distance between hip point and midpoint is 5 inch. I will mark the same measurement on the bottom. Like this, and I will join these points. So the marking on the back is completed, and I have left the seam allowance of 1.5 inch as I have to join princess line, so I need seam allowance for that too. And now I will cut it. I'm not making the shoulder curve. I have extended the seam allowance till the top. Once I'll join the princess line, after that I will make the shoulder curve. So I have cut the back, and now I will cut the princess line. So the front and back of the kurti is completed, and now I will cut the sleeve of the kurti, and for that I have folded the fabric, and now I will trace the basic sleeve pattern on this fabric. I have already told this in my previous video. You can click the above link to check it out. My kurti sleeve is quarter 18 inches. I will trace this pattern on the fabric, and then I will extend the length of my sleeve. So I have traced the pattern, and I have to join border like this, and now I will extend the length of the sleeve till bottom. So I have marked the sleeve length at 18 inch, and I have marked the elbow point at 10 inch. I'll mark the elbow measurement, which is 12 inch, so I have taken half of it, 6 inch, and the wrist circumference is 10 inch, and again I have taken half of it, and I have joined it till top, and I have left seam allowance of 1 inch, and now I'll cut the sleeve. So I have cut the sleeve, and now I'll cut the front curve. So for stitching, I'll begin with the back of the kurti, and I'll stitch princess line pieces together. So I have stitched the princess line and overlocked it. And now I'll mark the shoulder measurement at 6.75 inch, and I'll mark the same point on the bust line too, and I'll join those points, and I'll make the shoulder curve. For neckline, from the center I'll go 2.5 inch inwards and mark a point, and from that point I'll take the depth of my back neckline, which is 5.5 inch, and from this point Again I'll mark a point at 2.5 inch and I have joined these points to form a rectangle. And now I'll make the neckline shape. I've made round neck for the back neckline. So I have cut the neckline and the shoulder. From this point go half inch downwards and mark the point and join these points. This is the shoulder slope. So back is completed. Now similarly I'll stitch the princess line pieces of the front bottom. So I have stitched both the princess line and overlocked it. Now I'll stitch the bodies. And this is how the bodice looks. Now I'll attach the bodice with the bottom. So I've attached both the pieces and overlocked it. Now I'll turn the seam allowance direction downwards and I'll make a top stitch. So this is the front and it's completed, and this is the back. Now I'll cut the front neckline, and for that from the center point I'll mark a point at 2.75 inch, and from this point I'll take the depth of my front neckline, which is 7 inch, and mark a point. Again from that point I'll go 2.75 inch inwards and mark the point, and I'll join these points to form a rectangle, and I have made a V-shaped neckline. And now I'll cut it. So I have cut the neckline, and now to finish the neckline I have taken this rectangular piece and I have attached the piece with the neckline with the help of pins. And now I will stitch them together. So I have stitched the neckline, and now I'll trim the excess fabric. So I have cut the fabric and I have made the marks on the neckline so that I could turn the fabric around easily. Now I'll turn this fabric inside like this. I have folded and pinned it. I'll hem it later. Now for back neckline I'll cut the bias strip, and for that I have folded this fabric diagonally, and I'll mark a point at 0.75 inch like this, and I'll cut it. So this is the bias strip for the back neckline, and now I'll stitch it. I have stitched the neckline and now I'll trim the excess fabric. Now I'll join the shoulder slopes on both sides together. So I have stitched both the shoulder slopes and overlocked it. And now I'll stitch the fitting seam on both the sides. So I have stitched fitting seam and now I will stitch the slits on the both sides. Slits are also done and now I will stitch the bottom of the kurti. Now for sleeves, firstly I'll attach both the pieces together. So I've stitched both the pieces together and overlocked it. And now I'll turn the seam allowance direction downwards and made a top stitch. And now I'll fold the bottom of the sleeve. And now I'll stitch the fitting seam of both the sleeves. So both the sleeves are ready and now I'll stitch them with the kurti. Now to attach a sleeve with the kurti, insert the sleeve into the shoulder like this. Both sleeve and kurti's right sides are facing each other. And now I'll join both the joints together. And I will also join both the center points together. And now I'll stitch the sleeve. You can also pin it up if you want to. And now I'll stitch both the sleeves and overlock it. So my kurti is completed and this is how it looks. Hope you will like it. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and do leave me a comment, guys. It really means a lot. And you can also join me on my social media. Links are in the description box. You can also join my Facebook group. Its link is also in the description box. And I'll see you soon. Till then, take care. Bye bye.